Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela, and welcome to Mediumship Mondays. So I was going to do this much earlier, but I've been falling asleep. So I decided to go ahead and do like a mediumship reading this evening. So I told you guys yesterday I had a video I did yesterday. All of a sudden, all these people are coming to me wanting readings. It's weird because I don't advertise. I don't say, hey, I'm doing readings now, nothing like that. And I actually did a couple weeks ago, put it out there in the universe. I'm like, universe, if this is something I'm meant to be doing, bring them to me. And all of a sudden, people are coming to me randomly. And yes, most of them are family members, but they've never asked before. And I just find that odd that they're suddenly valuing what I have to say and listening and wanting more than just one reading. So yesterday I gave my sister-in-law a reading, and then I did my mediumship spread that I've been doing. I felt called to do that spread where the middle card, usually just 1, 2 fell out today, is that person, and then these 2 on either side of that card are their personality. The card below would be the card that they learned in life that they carried over into death, and then this is what they learned after death. And then you could go off from there. This would be like the core reading, and then you could go off of questions from there, asking different questions, using different decks, whatever. So I pulled a reading, and we determined that it was her husband's father. I didn't know her husband's father had died. I didn't know how long he was dead. I didn't know what kind of person he was, but everything I was describing, they said was him, which was cool. So it wasn't like a spirit visiting me, which is normally the case. Like, I'm usually haunted by somebody. This was different because it was just the cards were pulling this person out, not me. Very weird. And they just found it fascinating that what I was describing was his dad to a T. So this morning I get to work, and mind you, her daughter's literally hours from giving birth at this moment. It is almost Tuesday. It's like 5 minutes till midnight. It will be Tuesday by the time this uploads, probably. But the thing of it was her daughter is hours away from giving birth right now. She's in the hospital. They had some issues, and I did a reading for her Mother's Day, and they had just found out that everything I was saying was true the day before. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So then today I get up and I go to work, and I'm not thinking about yesterday or anything. And as soon as I get to work, this spirit shows up that has been around me since October, and it got me thinking, oh my gosh, this person has been around me since my niece got married in October. I actually came across one of my old videos because I was searching for a specific video. I came across an old video that I thought was that one, but it was about this guy that showed up today and how he had been hanging around for a couple weeks. Prior to this video was Halloween. And if we backtrack a couple weeks prior to that, that was her wedding, the weekend of her wedding. And it dawned on me this morning when he showed up, and I'm like, where have you been? Like, I thought he was gone forever. So what I got out of it was that it was my niece's grandfather. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm thinking about her dad's father, which I know nothing about because her dad he's in the picture with her life, but I've never met him. Like, I've met him, but my sister-in-law and him were divorced when I got into the family. So I don't really know this guy. I don't know about his father. I know nothing about him. And mind you, I've been seeing Bill, this guy, since October. And I'm like, it dawned on me that It was around her wedding. And all of a sudden, she's getting ready to give birth. She went into the hospital today. And he showed up today. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is this her grandfather? So originally, when I talked about Bill, I talked about him where he was tall, thin, had a very military hairstyle. He had like a sage and pink, salmon pink, checkered white shirt on from like the 80s. He had brown pants on with like the brown matching belt that goes with the like the military, specifically Marines. And he had that type of haircut. It wasn't all the way down, but it was very neat. And I got that there was something wrong with his throat. And I immediately thought maybe throat cancer, which is why he wasn't talking to me. Like, there was no conversation being had between us. It was all like a mental link. And today, when he showed up, he was very talkative. He was like, I basically got that he was her grandfather. And I'm like, well, where have you been? And blah, 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 blah. And I kept hearing second family. And I'm like, what? Like, he had a second family? This is not right. And then I got that there was heart problems also. But there was something going on with the throat. And I don't know. And before, I talked about how his shoes were ugly, and he was like, are you kidding me? These are super expensive, kind of deal. He's very well put together, very well to do. And I kept hearing second family today, but I got the strong sense that he has been with her since October. He's been watching her get married, and now she's having a baby, and he's wanting to be a part of it. And it just blew my mind, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I called my sister-in-law went to my mother-in-law's house, and I just happened to call over there when she was picking up photos and of like her all the grandbabies to compare it to the new baby that's coming in. It's a girl, and when she's born. And so I wound up calling her, and I'm like, I didn't want to do this now because I know she's going in and getting induced and all this. I know you're excited. I said, but did her grandfather, her dad's dad, pass? And she's like, yes, he's passed, but... And then we start talking, and then she's like, who you're describing is my dad. So, for those of you who don't know, my husband is one of four. He's the baby. His father is not the other three's father. My mother-in-law was married prior to his dad. Their father, the other three, have the same father. He left when they were little bitty babies. Diane, my sister-in-law, that's now about to be a grandmother, is the only one that really remembers him because she was like 7 when he left. She has all these very fond memories of him. And she starts describing him, and I'm like, it does sound like the same guy that's been hanging around for months. And it makes sense if it's his granddaughter, and it's his only granddaughter, because she's the only girl in the family that's now having a girl. Well, she was the only granddaughter for a long time, and then my nephew started having girls. But she's, for 20-something years, she was the only girl in the family, and she's his only, that we know of, granddaughter. So, of course, he's going to be there. And it just, the whole thing blew my mind. We even figured out the age thing. See, did you see that going through there? Yep. And then she's telling me how he did have a second family, how she found out she had all these other siblings and later in life, and nobody really knows because nobody wants to talk about it because he left. And I was like, what is happening? And then she told me he killed himself. She either thinks he killed himself or someone killed him, that they think there was some kind of diagnosis, which is what I was thinking with the throat. But it also could ring true if he put a bullet in his throat, too. Something is going on with his throat, which is why he didn't communicate with me on a normal level. And this whole evening just blew my mind, because then she sends me a picture of this man. And he's wearing salmon-colored pants. total 80s, and he died in 1988, which makes sense of the outfit I saw him wearing. But it was identical to the man I saw clairvoyantly, have been seeing since October. It was identical. Identical. I mean, if I could draw, I would have drawn the same man. It was that crazy. And that's probably the first time ever I've had it confirmed so succinctly that this was the person that's been following me around every day at work for like since October. A lot of months. So I thought I would go ahead and do a spread tonight to see if he's still here, still hanging out. I did speak out loud earlier and say, you know what, your daughter's kind of opening up all these gifts too. Maybe you can communicate with her, because she is starting to open up those gifts. The more she talks to me, I feel like the more she is open to things. So we've been talking a lot about spirituality and tarot and stuff like that lately also, which is crazy. So I did do a meditation and I pulled some cards. This is from my Pensive Path Tarot. This is from my, can't even think of the name of it, Stretch Tarot. And then this is from the Mass Market Archetype deck. And I used Carolyn Mist Archetype deck to be exact. And I use this as the personality because, of course, it's like personality coming through. So let's see what the first two cards said here. And we got the Moon and the Page of Swords. And I totally see that being like one of his kids being left out in the cold. Now, my brother-in-law, it's always been joked that my brother-in-law was my father-in-law's son, which he's not. But he looks so much like the rest of the family. His sisters, which are the same father also. But he's the one that was a tiny, tiny baby when his dad left. He knows nothing of his dad, and he doesn't choose to know anything. As far as he knows, my husband's father is his father. And that's what I feel here, that maybe that regret for not being able to, not knowing his son. And that's what I feel in this card with the Page of Swords. That's quite interesting. And then we got the Moon, of course, with hidden things. And this also could be part of his second family that they know nothing about. Quite interesting. And then we got personality. And we got shapeshifter, light attribute, skill at navigating through different levels of consciousness, ability to see the potential in everything. And that could be why he's been hanging out since maybe a little bit before her wedding, because he saw all these things happening that's been happening to her. She got married, immediately got pregnant. She's had some health issues during this time. And there's a lot going on for her in the last 9 months. So, yeah, totally see that. And then shadow attribute, projecting an image that serves your personal agenda in that moment. And it's funny because that's saying that, because when I first saw him back in October, November, December, it was almost like he was observing me to see if I was legit. And it was almost like because one of the first things he said to me, because I saw his shoes, and they look like Mormon shoes, those brown, ugly shoes. And I was telling somebody this, and I literally heard him scream at me, "Do you know how much these cost? They're like alligator. They're like super expensive." And I was like, what? Like, he had this persona he wanted to show the world. And, which makes sense here for the Moon, because if he was had two separate families, he had to juggle this persona, right? Interesting. I don't see him having two families at the same time. I just felt it could be he was divorced, and then I found out she told me tonight he was married before her mom, before my mother-in-law. He was married before that, and he was married after that. So we don't know how many children he may have had. We don't know. So I find that interesting that comes up, projecting an image that serves your personal agenda in that moment. So in the moment when he first came to me and I was like, oh, look at those ugly shoes, he wanted me to know he was well-to-do. He needed me to know that. So I found that quite interesting. Pretty sure this is him. Then we have the dilettante. Light attributes, delights in the arts without having to be a professional, or alerts you to the danger of becoming superficial in your pursuits. The shadow attribute, pretension, too much deeper knowledge than you actually possess. And that's exactly what I was just saying with the gator shoes. It was like this very well-to-do, put-together person on the outside. But he wasn't on the inside because he had multiple families. He had left children. I think she did say he was a bit of a drinker also. I don't know. He wasn't everything he appeared to be, which is crazy because he understands that now. And he, I guess, either they have never seen a death certificate. They can't find a death certificate. But he either took his own life or was murdered in 1988. So it's been quite a few years since he's passed. But it's almost like he waited till he knew he could trust me to reveal. I mean, he's been literally following me around since October. That's several months, a lot of months. So I just found that interesting that all this stuff came out today relating to him as well. Interesting. So what did you learn in life? 4 of Wands, or Page of Wands. Look at that. Page. And this is relentlessness. I feel there's a march to the beat of your drummer kind of vibe to this card, but I also feel like he did that anyway, and that kind of probably got him in trouble. And it with being a wand, a very fiery card anyway, I see that he learned that, but it also hindered him in life because he wound up following whatever passion he had at that moment, and it could have been another woman or whatever. Interesting. So what did he learn in death? And this is the 9 of Cups, contentment. So there's this, and I totally get that. And the first time I brought this card up in a past life thing, I almost dropped the card because this is a very telling card. It's telling you need to have that contentment. Be happy with what you have. And I very much feel like that was not the case with him. Like he was never, on some level, there was never he was always needing the new thing, the new high, the new something to keep him going. Unfortunately for him, because I think it was a specific addiction he had that he was always looking for the next best thing. And if that meant leaving your children or leaving a wife, so be it. And because he was never content with who he was. And I think that is very telling that is something. I mean, it's been 35 years since 1988. I looked it up earlier because I had to do something told me to do some math, and between the time he died and the time he was born and all this stuff, it all came up to the same number. So I assumed that was my what do you call it, confirmation that it was him earlier in the day, but which I just found fascinating. And that even looks like a man, businessman, whatever. Just the fact that that's a man cracks me up. And he's in a business suit. And he's almost looks like a door-to-door salesman, right? But I do feel that this is him. I feel like he's split right now. Like he's still seeing me, but he's with that baby right now. And his daughter and his granddaughter. I very much feel that. And she actually, when I talked to her about all this earlier, she's like, I'm getting goosebumps. I can totally feel like he's present with us. And maybe that's all he needed from me, is to maybe believe in myself enough to believe that this was all real, because it was proved to me. I mean, I literally saw a picture of him, the same guy that's been following me around since October. So it's crazy. But yeah, I want to do this spread to see if he popped up again, and it looks like he has popped up again. And this time it's almost like he's unafraid, and he's grown. So he's unafraid to tell me, yeah, I was kind of a boozer, I was kind of a ladies' man, I did this, I did that. And he's unafraid to own up to it, because he has found contentment. So he's unafraid to tell me these things. So I found that very fascinating. So that is it for my Mediumistic Mondays. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button to be alerted to any future videos. And if you guys want me to do a mediumship reading for any of you, let me know, and I'll just do a video. Thanks, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.